and welcome to Marriage Moments with Life Coach Robin May. It is truly my honor to come to you every month right here in my home office to share principles that I believe can help educate, empower, and equip us in our journey in our relationships. This month, we are going to talk about marriage burnout. I am going to tell you what it is. I'm going to let you know how to tell if you have it. I want to tell you how to fix it and how to prevent it in the first place. But before I do, can I help you out? Many of us have been hypnotized or lulled into a false reality. Malcolm X once said, "You have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, run amok." And many of us have fallen victim to that very thing. Let me tell you what I mean. Many of us have gotten caught up in this social media world we live in. We scroll through Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and we see what looks like these perfect relationships. We see couples that seem so in love, and we can't even imagine that they have any of the same challenges that we do. And because of that, we often isolate even more, and we don't talk about what we have going on because we don't want to be judged. We don't want to be the only person that has these issues. And listen, it's not like people are necessarily creating a false reality, but none of us really should put on Facebook the real issues that we have. I shouldn't go on Instagram and say, "Last night I didn't want my husband to sleep in the room with me." You want to present information that respects your family, but because of that, many of us think we are the only one. But can I help you? You are not the only one. I remember recently I was looking on Facebook, and one of my friends, her husband, sent her some flowers just because, for no reason. So I called my husband up and I said, "Honey, when was the last time you sent me flowers for no reason?" He said, "Baby, you told me many years ago you don't even like flowers like that." And I just had to laugh at myself because I was getting irritated with him for not doing something I didn't want him to do anyway. So remember, you are not alone. All of us have challenges. All of us have issues. The key is to find a safe place where you can share, where you can dialogue, and where you can talk and get help. And I am hoping that IBelieveInMarriage.com is just the place for that. All right, so what is burnout? Well, most of us are familiar with that term when it comes to work. You know, psychologists call it being exhausted or really overwhelmed with stress. Well, I believe those same principles can apply to our marriage. I like to define marriage burnout is when we are mentally or emotionally overwhelmed, stressed out, which leads to a diminished interest in the things necessary to keep our marriage together. So how do you know you're dealing with marriage burnout? Some of the symptoms would be you feel really disconnected from your spouse. You're not interested in going home. When you're overwhelmed with something or there's something burning in your mind that you want to talk about, your spouse is not the first person you want to call. And again, you just feel really disconnected to your significant other. Remember, this is not just something that has gone on for a week or 2 weeks. This has to be a long-term issue. Maybe it's been going on for several months, and unfortunately for some people, several years. If you are feeling some of those symptoms, you might be experiencing marriage burnout. I like to share a timeline with how these things can develop. So let's say you came into your marriage 2 years ago or maybe 20 years ago, and you had these high expectations, and then your spouse no longer met those expectations. You started to feel frustrated, and then you start to think, "I'm putting in way more than I'm getting out of this relationship." So then the frustration just gets bigger and bigger, and the discontentment grows stronger and stronger. And so then what happens? You begin to feel a burnout. You no longer want to do all the things that you've been doing to what you think is making the marriage work, and you are ready to clock out. Those are symptoms of marriage burnout. That is the symptom of marriage burnout, but how do you fix it? You have to deal with the root. And let me give you 3 areas that I believe summarize the root issue in most of the relationships that experience burnout. Number 1, it's unintentional neglect. If you followed any of the work I've done, you've heard me talk about this. But basically what happens is you get consumed with work and she gets consumed with the children, or vice versa. You get on this fast pace of your life, and before you know it, often unintentionally, one or both of you have stopped investing in the marriage the way you need to. Unintentional neglect. The second is unaddressed core issues. Now let me help you, because many times the unaddressed core issues are our own issues. Many of us are blinded to the issues that we contribute to the relationship. We aren't addressing our own core issues. You are frustrated with your own life, and you're deflecting that frustration onto your marriage. So unaddressed core issues. And then also unaddressed core issues between the two of you. You want to keep the peace, so you don't let him know that what he's doing is upsetting you. You don't let her know that you would love for her to do more of something and less of something else. So it's unaddressed core issues. And then lastly, an unwillingness to be intentionally uncomfortable. In other words, we don't want to have the tough conversations. We don't want to sit down, lay out everything that's going on in our marriage and talk about it. We prefer to bury our heads in the sand and act like everything is okay. And before you know it, we are 4 years, 5 years, 10 years down the line, and we're dissatisfied in our marriage. So we have to deal with the root issue. But then how do you do that practically? Let me give you some practical tips. Number one, this is so easy. You need time together. I want the two of you to go on vacation together. On my blog on IBelieveInMarriage.com/blog, you can find an entry where I talk about 3 signs you and your spouse need a vacation. It sounds simple, but the two of you need to get away from your jobs. You need to get away from the family. You need to get away from the kids and have some time together. Another practical tip is to increase your physical intimacy. If you are a Christian married couple, let me tell you that God uses the intimacy that comes from sexual contact to bring us together. And I know it's difficult when you're not feeling him or he's not feeling you to come together sexually, but you want to use physical intimacy as just one way to help you stay connected. And then next, you might have to get some outside support. Many times you need a third party that can help you walk through, talk through, and understand what's all going on from a different perspective. And then lastly, find a hobby. The two of you need to get together and find something not just you do on vacation, but something you do consistently. It can be as easy as finding a TV show that you both like, or maybe finding an exercise routine that you both enjoy, or maybe you can both take a class together, but do something that causes you to come back together instead of things that pull you apart. So we've talked about what marriage burnout is. I've told you how to fix it. And then what do we do to prevent it? You and your spouse need to come up with a thermometer for your relationship. A thermometer measures the temperature of the relationship. And so I want you to come up with an indicator. What is something that will let you know the temp of your marriage? Maybe it is the lack of physical intimacy. Of course, we all get busy. But if you know you and your spouse haven't come together in a long time, that might be an indicator that you need to do something. So determine a thermometer. What is an indicator for you and your spouse? Another way to prevent marriage burnout is to make sure you're balancing other areas of your life. I often hear women in particular tell me that their husbands work so much. And of course, the husband wants to provide and he wants to be able to show his family the finer things. But often that leads the wife to carry the brunt of much of what happens in the family or with the children or with other dynamics of their lives. Now, of course, I know that that can be vice versa. But whatever it is, the two of you need to balance the other areas of your life so that one person isn't left feeling neglected. Another way to prevent marriage burnout is to have built-in stress relievers. Even if you think you don't need it, you do. So the two of you need to talk about what are some built-in stress relievers we can do together. Again, like I said, it could be finding a really good show that the two of you use to de-stress in the evenings. Or maybe the two of you make sure that you have a staycation every 6 months. I don't know what it is, but you have to build in stress relievers. So another way to prevent marriage burnout, I talked about the thermometer, but both of you need to take turns being the thermostat. The thermostat can change the temperature of a room. I want both of you to take turns changing the temperature in your relationship. So in other words, sometimes you might have to be the one that cools down really quickly to make sure that the relationship doesn't overheat. So I want the two of you to take turns being the thermostat. Again, I want to reiterate that there are seasons in marriage. As a matter of fact, there's a great resource I think you should invest in that deals with seasons in marriage. You can look right there on the screen and the book will be there for you to see. I don't get anything from that recommendation. I just know that it's a book that has blessed me. So as always, I leave you with some discussion questions that the two of you can use to help facilitate the conversation. I want the two of you to be honest with one another. Have you ever experienced some of the symptoms of burnout? Remember, this is not a time to make accusations or to point the finger. It's just sharing where you have been in the relationship. Discussion question number 2. What are ways that we can use to indicate whether or not we're headed for a burnout? So I want the two of you to talk about what are indicators that we are disconnecting. And then finally, I want the two of you to discuss stress relievers that you can incorporate into your marriage to ensure that you don't disconnect and that you don't have a long-term burnout experience. Now, once you have this discussion, I would love for you to come back to IBelieveInMarriage.com, share your comments. Also, like our Facebook page, Facebook.com/IBelieveInMarriage. I want this to be a movement, and it can only be that with your help. Again, this is Life Coach Robin May. I look forward to connecting with you soon. Take care.